Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jerry Chabola Stadium as we honor and celebrate the life of the late Greg Goodyear on his favorite night of the week. Her son fractured his forearm on the first play of the first quarter of his first game as a freshman. Yet he played every game that season. Blake Kneebone's cast was wrapped in foam, and he earned the nickname the Club. Football has shown me what is possible in a team where discipline, shared goals, and a strong commitment to each other are important, said the two-way CIF championship lineman. Singing the national anthem, former Culver City High School senior class president, good friend of the late Greg Goodyear, and Blake's mom, Lisa Palace Kneebone, and the Goodyear Fan Club.
Thank you, Mike. We are very honored to be here tonight to help participate, celebrate the life of Coach Goodyear. And I know this is kind of a strange song to be singing for a celebration of life, but if you knew Coach Goodyear the way that we all know Coach Goodyear, if any song he'll hear in his ears wherever he is, it would be this song. The song he heard every Friday night before his favorite thing in the world, football. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly revealed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, he through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of God.
Lisa Palace Kneebone and the Goodyear Fan Club. Laura Palace, Kate Kohler, and Deborah Hockenberger. Confined to his bed and respirator, Greg Goodyear knew his days were numbered. Still, he made calls and dictated stories to get the official football program ready for distribution for the Friday night playoff game. He reminded program advertisers to deliver payments to the school. He continued to coach Centaur football players, lobby colleges to provide scholarships for former and current Centaur athletes, and raise more funds for the Centaur athletic program, all from his bedside. Greg Goodyear kept fighting for life and the Culver City High School athletic program until his last breath. Since the 11th grade, my ambition and passion was to stay in my hometown, helping kids be as good as they possibly could be and improve the Centaur football team, said Greg Goodyear. You in this audience are his mentors, his friends, colleagues, coaches, players, and students who benefited from his devotion, his obsession to his Centaur family. We will share a little later on in your inspiring stories. I am trying to stay positive, to stay strong in the face of adversity, he said when diagnosed with cancer about 7 years ago. I need to be a role model to kids who also may be having problems. Greg Goodyear would have turned 70 3 Fridays ago. Fitting, since he lived and died for Friday Night Football. This former All-League tailback and professional Canadian football player mentors the Centaur linebackers in his 23rd year at the school. He said, I told Greg he's got blue blood because he was on the field from the time he played in the late 1960s until our last playoff game in late November. He died loving Culver City football. Giving the opening prayer, the inspirational leader of the Centaurs. Please welcome Cornell Miles. Hey, Cornell.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. Now, we're here to celebrate today. We're here to celebrate Greg Goodyear, all that he has done for the program. So I don't need nobody to be silent out there. I want you to be happy. It's all about life, and life is like right now. So we're just going to pray to our Father that he bless us as we go through this program. And before I begin, can I get a hand clap for everybody? If you're happy, if you love life, come on, keep clapping. Now, if you love life, yeah, enjoy today, because tomorrow is not promised to us. Come on now, keep clapping your hands. Clap your hands. Clap your hands. That's what Greg likes. And I want all these players over here, don't you be silent when they come down to clap and keep clapping. Keep clapping. Keep clapping. There you go. That's it. Let's bow our heads. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you right now and we ask in your blessing upon this celebration of life of Greg Goodyear. We ask you to bless each and every one that is on the program as they come and speak about this great man. We ask you to bless each and every soul that is here and that is listening, that we can take with us what we learned today from this man, that we can move on to greater heights. So we just thank you for your blessing. And we are hoping and praying that this year the whole athletic program will have one good year. So we thank you, we praise you, and we magnify you. Amen.
The mom of a former All-League Centaur quarterback, she provided care for the late Greg Goodyear in his declining days. Presenting a tribute to the former holder of the Culver City High School passing record, please welcome Beth Handler.
So I am very, very blessed to, first of all, be the mother of number 16, David Handler. And I, yay! And I am honored to share with you about the life of our beloved coach, Greg Goodyear, and my friend, our brother. The son of Delwyn and Elaine Goodyear, Greg was born on February 25th, 1952, and his entire life was centered on the city of Culver City and its athletic department. His father, Del, served as the first athletic director of Culver City High School, was a physical education teacher and the first Culver City High School varsity basketball coach who won the Centaurs' first CIF title in 1954. Greg's mom, Elaine, was a substitute teacher at a local city junior high schools and inspired an outstanding English student of hers named Robert Redford to pursue his dreams in life. Undoubtedly, Greg was greatly inspired by the passions of his father in his coaching, and Del was certainly inspired by the passions of UCLA head basketball coach John Wooten, who had been named as the greatest coach ever by the Sporting News in 2009. Del assisted his good friend through Wooden's entire career at UCLA. Greg's sports accomplishments, although he played varsity as a sophomore and did get in for some passing plays for offensive coordinator Jack Riley, who was truly his mentor, he actually came into his own in his junior season. In those days, Greg only weighed 145 pounds and was the backup quarterback who came off the bench in the last 2 minutes of the Centaurs' opening game after fierce rival Beverly Hills High to drive Culver 65 yards for the winning touchdown in a hard-fought 9-6 victory. Greg found track star Bill Garner in the end zone with a 35-yard strike to provide the winning margin. Later, Greg would start during the Centaurs' final 2 games against number 1 ranked Rolling Hills and powerful Morningside. In both games, Greg's accurate passes balanced the Centaurs' powerful run game and led to a 27 and 14-13 victories to close out a successful 6-3 season. However, Greg is most remembered in those days for his outstanding and record-setting senior season. At the time when high schools were just beginning to incorporate passing into the offense, Greg's passing to Mike Gunnels, John Becker, and Ned Leba was nearly impossible to stop. Again, the Centaurs had an effective run game and a tremendous defense that shut out 4 opponents. Greg led the Centaurs to an 8-1 season. It was also helpful that he had added 20 pounds of muscle from his relentless weight training program. Greg was a 3-year varsity letterman in football and baseball and was an outstanding natural athlete, just like his father, Del. He also co-founded an inclusive social club for Centaur spirit named the Knights, and he led the Centaur's Wild Bunch cheering section for Centaur basketball games. Like Jack Riley before him, he enrolled at Santa Monica College that played in the powerful Metro Conference against colleges such as El Camino, Pasadena, Bakersfield, Pierce, LA Valley, Long Beach, Taft, and others. Greg started at quarterback during his sophomore season and was selected by the University of Nevada, Reno for a full scholarship. Following his commitment, the team's offense adopted more of a wishbone-style running attack that de-emphasized passing. He would later transfer to San Diego State, where he received his degree. But later in his life, Greg lived his passion by becoming Coach Goodyear for the Centaurs, devoted to helping the quarterbacks to pass correctly, over the top, over the top, right. And of course, his kickers to be their best. And he did found the Booster Club, handled the sponsorship, and definitely everything into that football program. But his biggest passion was his devotion to coaching his players off the field to become great men, to live their dreams of playing at the college level, scholarships, on full scholarships. Like my own son, David Handler, he made the difference. In our story, David had played at Pali High, and in Pacific Palisades, they also went to the wishbone. And my David was a long passing 6'5" quarterback. And there was no opportunities that we were going to have at Pali. We searched high and low for the right program to get into. Literally, we searched, we looked, we visited the programs, and we went and looked at the rosters of the scholarships that had been created by the programs. With Coach Jamal leading this program and with Greg, the ability for players to get scholarships was way beyond the other schools we had done research on. And we also discovered that there was an incredible family here, a family that, for those of us that especially were raising kids as single parents, that we found home. And when we got here at Pali, it was like Greg became so much more than just a coach. He became a friend. He became committed to David's success. And because of Greg, David received a full scholarship at Savannah State University. But not just that. Greg also visited. David had the opportunity to play at College Station, Colorado. And there was Greg. He needed to be at that first game to make sure David knew his coach was going to be there for him. So he attended, and in fact, David's dream of being on ESPN was actually realized that day when that game was on ESPN3. So that was amazing. Greg also traveled to Florida to the Bethune-Cookman game and also visited David at Savannah State to make sure that, for one, that he passed correctly over the top and that he knew his coach was behind him. On a personal note, Greg entered my life as a parent, and for many of our parents, for many of the parents who came, who had situations happening, Greg made the difference. I went through a bad patch, and Greg allowed me to enter his home and share it. He was the man who made a difference during a very rough patch, and I observed the last 4 years of his life as his housemate, roommate, and in the end, really, truly caring for him. And I will tell you, his passion for getting students, his players, scholarships, started first thing in the morning. He was on that phone endlessly with coaches, and he was not only coaching the players, but the parents on what they needed to do, how to do it. And it was a remarkable, his passion. And during his cancer journey, the strength of this man, I would tell him, Greg, you're like a centaur. You keep going and going and going. You're like the endless, committed, beautiful human being that was all about other people. He wanted to make sure to leave other players, like one last player he wanted to get through, one next. It was like he never looked at his cancer as a negative. He never was sad. He never was down. It was all about his players, his family, what he could do to make a difference, all the way to the very end. And even when we were discussing, should he go into hospice, should he not? Absolutely not. He was going to live the last day of his life all the way through playing. And let me tell you, this man had strength. I mean, in the end, it was extremely painful for him, but he never stopped. He didn't let anything stop him. Like even the last game of the season, he was going to make sure he was going to live to be there. So off the field, Greg was a giver who helped so many of us during difficult times, and he caused so many players to live out their dreams. And I have a message from my son, who in fact is now, because of Greg, in the dream job of his life as one of the core operations coordinators for the new football league on Twitch called Fan Controlled Football. So David says this: I am thankful for the bond I built over the years with Goodyear and know that he is watching over all of us, looking forward to the next Culver City football season. Thank you for everything, Coach. Good luck. I guess that was for me. So he will be remembered far more than just a coach. He will be remembered as a brother, as someone that is all about the future of our kids, not only today, but for years to come. And he will be remembered also in the lives of so many young men, hundreds, in fact, that he helped get into college scholarships, getting their degrees, and moving on, and who knows the impact this one man can have on life. We love you, Coach Goodyear. You will be missed and always remembered. Thank you.
Honoring and celebrating the life of Greg Goodyear, two former mayors in the heart of Screenland. In the audience, great to have with us Joran Eriksson, a current Culver City councilman, and to his right, Jim Clark, former mayor, now president of the Culver City Arts Foundation. This three-time All-League Centaur alumnus played on 3 straight Football League championship teams, while also breaking records in the 400-meter run on the track team. The former Kansas Jayhawk cornerback is serving his 22nd year on the Culver City High School coaching staff, 13 as head coach. He is the multi-Ocean League champion girls and boys track and field coach. Welcome, Culver City High School Hall of Famer, class of 1995, Jamal Wright.
All right, Coach Greg Goodyear. So many stories, and he was so helpful in so many different aspects. He was a jack of all trades, and I've had a pleasure of working with Coach Goodyear the last 20 years. I was just scrolling through my text messages, just thinking about Greg, and one thing I can say is his passion was relentless. Nobody loved Culver City football like Coach Greg Goodyear, and he had his way of going about doing things, and he would always let you know what he thought was the best play, who should be playing, where they should be playing, and how they should be playing. He would let me know all the time. Long phone calls, but I definitely respected and knew where his heart was, and his passion for anybody that wore the Culver City blue. We have a mantra in Culver City. We say, once a Centaur, always a Centaur. And Greg definitely embodied that. And Beth kind of touched on his passion of what he did behind the scenes. But Greg would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and he would always say, Coach, you have the West Coast schools. I'm going to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I have all the East Coast schools. And he relentlessly called all the schools on the East Coast and in the Midwest for players that were at Culver City, players that were in junior colleges, players that wanted to transfer to different schools. And you just don't find that. And his care and his love for anybody that was at Culver City would always say, if you played at Culver City, you're my family. You know, I don't have any brothers or sisters. I don't have any nieces or nephews. But, you know, my family is a Culver City football family, and he truly meant that. When I think of all the resourcefulness he had as far as the contacts with the businesses in the area, the food that he always got donated to all the football players, every football camp, the banners that we see, all this is Coach Goodyear's work. And I really appreciate how he took a lot of load off of me as a head coach with everything that he did. And he just did it out of the goodness of his heart because he wanted to see his team succeed. I remember sitting by his bedside, and Coach Goodyear, by himself, he's kept up the record books from Culver City High School since the 50s. So he's like, Coach, you got to make sure these records stay intact. You know, he was really, that's how his brain worked. You know, he was serious about the records. So those some big shoes to fill. But this is a great day. It's time to celebrate somebody that really embodied what we want for our young men at Culver City High School, just to help them become men. However, we can help them. I remember Greg he had diets for our big guys, cabbage diets. He would have a weight gaining plan for our small guys. Greg just had everything that you wanted, and he filled in a whole lot of gaps. And I really appreciate Greg, and he definitely left a hole in our program, but we're going to make sure we keep everything that he did alive. And that's all I pretty much have to say about Greg, and that's about it.
Named the first Teacher of the Year by the Culver City Education Foundation, he was a celebrated vanguard teacher who for decades partnered teachers and students with parents, staff, businesses, community groups, and government officials. As the school's athletic director, he led the remodel and dedication of the Goodyear Gymnasium. Centaur football players and other athletes are benefiting from upgrades he directed, which included the weight room, lockers, the snack bar, track, field, scoreboard, field equipment, ADA access points, landscaping, and repairs. Along with Greg Goodyear, he was a founding member of the Culver City High School Athletic Booster Club. Please welcome retired Centaur coach, teacher, and administrator for whom this stadium is named, Jerry Chabola.
Thanks, Mike. So, Greg Goodyear. It's nice that all of you have acknowledged the fact that Greg used the telephone. For a while, I thought my phone number was the only one he knew how to dial. I understand that's not quite accurate. I'll tell you, Greg was a unique person, and all of you know that. He was unique to me because he was always providing suggestions. He was always providing support. In my mind, he had a heart of gold. He was all heart. Anybody needed him, he was there. All of you young people that benefited from his coaching, his coaching style, his ability to communicate with you, moving beyond the high school to your collegiate careers and even further than that. He was always there. He was always there with a suggestion. What a great spirit. When you talk about someone who has been part of Culver City High School, it's already been mentioned, quite literally, he was part of this high school from its inception, through his father, and ultimately, as I got to know him a little bit better, and better, and better, and as he would come down and talk to me about various things, there was always two things that happened. Yes, he was here every Friday night, but beyond that, he was at basketball games, boys, girls, made no difference. He was at baseball, softball games, made no difference to him. Track meets. He was at virtually all of the athletic teams and programs, competitions. And secondly, he was always there with his red licorice. See, one thing we couldn't keep in the snack bar enough of. First stop on Friday night, handful of red licorice. So Greg was always willing to help, always willing to lend a hand, always willing to give advice. When I stopped to think about what Greg was really all about, Centaur for Life seems to fit. I'm sure that's forthcoming and will be. I think that that award and maybe some others could be acknowledged for the future. But the one thing I talked to him about, and we had Beth mentioned a little bit about it, a few days before he died, we had a fairly long 45-minute phone conversation. And we talked about quite a few things. And I want to throw this out there to you, and maybe this is the one thing that I would like to see happen. All of what you see here, Greg had ideas. And he had one of the ideas all of you know about is that one day we would have truly a real press box. And that press box would be something that we could all be proud of and would be part of this stadium. So I'm hoping that someday that can happen. And there's a lot of logistics that go with that. As we kind of put together this facility over time, it was important that he always acknowledged that was one thing he would like to see happen. I'm proud to say that we were able to achieve, as was mentioned, that the gym is in honor of his father, the Dale Goodyear Gymnasium. I would like to see that one day we could have the Greg Goodyear press box. And quite frankly, my words to him were, I promise you I will do everything that I can do from whatever position I'm in to make that happen. And I think it's important to know that Greg was more than just a football coach. He was an advocate for many people. I think Coach Salter is here because of Greg Goodyear. He was the first one that called and said, Jerry, I'd like you to consider someone that could come to Culver City High School and make a difference. That's what Greg was about. So he introduced me to Coach Salter. Coach Salter ultimately came here, did a great job as a football coach, and now he's doing even a better job as an athletic director. And I think it's important that all of us who have the opportunity take what we have, make it better, and then move on from that and let the next generation make it even better than that. So hopefully some of you will note, and I don't always believe in coincidences. Over the weekend, we had an opportunity to move a lot of things in our house, and I don't know why or how, but this came up. When I asked the coaches, when we remodel and we build new athletic facilities, what would you like to see happen? So from Greg Goodyear, I received this handwritten note. Proposed changes or additions to the stadium and the field. This was written in 2011. Keep the stands on the west side, where you're all sitting tonight. Put some type of a shade. Well, we got palm trees. I'm not sure that's the shade he had in mind. He said that the stands should be similar to Narbonne's. They needed to be elevated. And we, I think, accomplished as best we can and could with the facilities that requests that he had. Here's the one that he said we should have a press box that was soundproof, and for the coaches to use spotters, as spotters, that have all the modern equipment, the technology, the communication, a place for the whoever was going to videotape at that time and tape all the games. He wanted all of that to happen. He said that the stands should be moved as close to the track as possible, keeping people in the stands and not standing in front of them. But the thing that he also mentioned was we need bigger numbers on the field. As many of you might recall, we painted the field for quite a number of years. I think we're fairly successful on the field and the arrows that point the direction toward the goal line. That was one of his requests. A new scoreboard, that happened as well. A big block interlocking CC logo, which we accomplished, should be in the middle of the field with blue and white, as well as an outline of the numbers in black. So what you see out there is basically what Greg recommended. And I think that he also suggested that the end zones have the Culver City imprinted on them, and that was, we were successful at that happening as well. So all those things Greg had. So I would like to see at some point that press box built, and I know, I understand completely all the issues that will have to be undertaken. And I think that it would be a fitting tribute for it to be in his name. And I would also like to say thank you one last time to Greg Goodyear for all that he helped in terms of support, recommendations, to all of you, to all of us. And it would really be great if Culver City High School had a gym and a press box dedicated to two of the most significant people in Culver City athletic history. Thank you.
In just a moment, we will relish more experiences from Greg's friends and colleagues, but we invite you to share your memories, tell your stories, and describe Greg's impact on your life and others. And to allow each of you the opportunity to reminisce, we will request you articulate your thoughts in 3 minutes or less. And so that you can relax until it's your turn, we invite you to visit one of the great coaches at Culver City High School, 1997 graduate. He's a running backs coach, Dovie Reed. He's got the board. Just write your name, your relationship to Greg, and we'll call you up when it's your turn. Thank you, Dovie. Greg Goodyear, who co-founded the Centaur Athletic Booster Club, gushed when school district administrators hired the head coach from CIF Titleist Bishop Amat High School. Goodyear said he petitioned hard for the celebrated mentor who lived in nearby Westchester. After coaching football at Culver High for 14 years, he has served as athletic director the past 8 years, leading the school to elite athletic status. He has sensitively worked with players and coaches the last 2 turbulent years when the pandemic shuttered their seasons. I just tried to keep our coaches' spirits up because I remember when I was a young coach and you're focused on the season and the players, you put your heart and your soul into it, and then you don't play, he said. Welcome, Culver City High School Athletic Director, Tom Salter.
Greg Goodyear. Well, he was here today. We had his magic. If you saw the baseball game today, Coach Prieto, I don't know how we won that game, but that was a great, unbelievable game, and softball beat both teams beat Redondo. So I think Greg was definitely here overseeing us. So yeah, Greg did like to make phone calls. He called me a few times when I was at Bishop Vermont, and I remember saying, well, Greg, I got married, I'm living out there, and just call me again. And then the next year he called, and it worked out perfectly. Jerry was I was very fortunate to get hired here, very excited. Just got married and, started at Culver City. So the first thing I did is said, Greg, I gotta meet you, because after talking to this guy, he was like talking so much about Culver City. He was a great salesman, he was a great person, and so I met him, we went out to dinner. I said, Greg, I gotta know all about all the teams we're playing. Tell me about that. He knew everything. He knew all the teams were playing, what they were doing, what we got to do to beat them. He was so enthusiastic, and he was amazing. And he always had that energy, always had that spirit. He loved Culver City. He loved Culver City football, and he loved Culver City football players. I got the pleasure of coaching with him for 10 years. In those 10 years, he coached quarterbacks. Quarterback, exactly. Put the arm up, and he would be telling me during the game, I'd say, okay, Greg, that's it, we're not throwing any more tonight. He goes, okay, I won't say it. But he was fabulous. He was taught the right way how to throw the football, and he could really teach it. He was a great teacher of the game, and he loved his quarterbacks. And he always wanted to come out early with the team. Well, let's get out early, out a little bit earlier. Let's get the quarterbacks coming out and throwing. So, okay, Greg. And then he transitioned to the kickers coach. So all of a sudden, the kickers had to come out a half an hour before everyone else so we could warm up. I said, all right, Greg, whatever you need, because he was detail-oriented. He really cared about the kids, and he did a great job with the kickers. All the time, always prepared. His history knowledge of Culver City was very important. He would tell all the players, give us all the fact, the history of who the great players were, the great team, how we had to measure up to them. That was very important, that history of Culver City, that he lived for. And the other thing is the program. The Culver City program is as good a program as out there. We'd sell it Friday night. And he put his heart and soul into it. And it's very, very, he made a lot of money. He did a great job to help the football program with that. Like Jerry did say, he went to all the games. Be a playoff game, he was there. Always rooting on the Centaurs. Always. He was always so proud of Culver City. It's truly amazing. His big passion, and no one did this better than Greg, is getting football players recruited. He would, 24 hours a day, he was working on getting players recruited. I can remember sometimes school showing up, and I said, Greg, I've never heard of this school before. And I said, they're in the United States? He goes, yeah, Tom. But that's great. No one got kids recruited better than he did. If you played, you could have graduated 3 years, out of high school, and he would be there to work for you. He loved the players, and he would do whatever it took to get you on the team, to get you situated. And with that passion, and I probably should have got him to write a book about it, because it was truly amazing how hard he worked for the Culver City football players. When he did get diagnosed with cancer, you couldn't tell the way, he just kept doing what he was doing. Getting kids recruited, coming to all the games, never missed a beat. You never even know it. He never complained, never felt sorry for himself. He showed so much character, so much courage. Even the last year, when he wasn't doing good, he felt horrible when he missed the Santa Monica game. And he would call me and say, I'm going to find a way. I'm going to get there. He was in the hospital. He is just tremendous. He's in heaven, and he's going to be watching all the games from the best seat in the house next year. And it's definitely going to be strange not having Greg here on the sidelines. He is, there's so much passion, so much desire about this school and this program. And seeing all the players just reminds me of so many good times with Greg, with the players, with the coaches on this field. And we are going to get a press box one day, sooner or later. But it would be great to put Greg's name on it, exactly. So, we love Greg Goodyear, all what he did, and I know the players really appreciate all the hard work and effort he did for them to get into the college. And we're going to miss Greg.
Your official Celebration of Life programs were printed by the father of star Centaur receiver Charles Ross. Kevin Ross, thank you for printing the program. Greg assisted this former All-League Centaur basketball player in his progression as an accomplished high school basketball coach. Goodyear often pressed him to coach at his alma mater, but circumstances never aligned, and they remained dear friends, vacationed together, discussed business opportunities, and gabbed nonstop about high school sports. He said, Greg and I talked about three things: football, football, and football, in that order. Please welcome successor trustee of the Greg Goodyear estate, former Culver City High School Boys League president, Andrew Ferruto.
Good evening, and before I begin, I want to read a letter from the mayor of Culver City, Daniel Lee, and the council members of Culver City. This letter was sent to me on December 20th, 2021. Dear family and friends of Greg Goodyear, on behalf of the City Council, I send you our deepest sympathy as you mourn the passing of Greg Goodyear. While Mr. Goodyear's loss leaves a great void in our community, the memories that you hold in your hearts ensure that he remains with us all now and in the future. In honor of Greg Goodyear's memory, on a motion made by Council Member Goran Erickson, the City Council unanimously adjourned its regular meeting of December 13, 2021, in Greg Goodyear's name. With heartfelt condolences, Dr. Daniel Lee, Mayor of the City of Culver City. I also want to read parts of an email that Tom Mills, who really wanted to be here today, but he's recovering from some surgery. He emailed me that he wanted me to convey to everyone how fortunate he was to have participated in the Win-Win for Goodyear article with Mike Cohen that appeared in the local paper and is also on the back of the program this evening. Tom said he will always cherish his time that he spent with Greg on the morning following the Camarillo playoff game. Greg was a great competitor and truly loved Culver City athletics and everyone involved with it. But most of all, Tom will miss Greg's text updates and his phone calls on the latest development for his Culver City kids. He will be greatly missed, but always remembered, and that's from Tom Mills. First of all, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today on behalf of Coach Goodyear, and as the lead successor trustee of his estate, along with Jason Grossman and Tom Salter representing the Culver City High School Booster Club. I want to tell Mr. Chabola that I will do everything in my power to make sure that Greg's wishes become a reality, especially the press box. Just a quick background, I first met Coach Goodyear in the spring of 1970 at the 9th grade spring football practice where Coach Goodyear and a few of his other teammates were assisting Coach Fred Fuller in the junior high school. From then on, our friendship grew, and we stayed in touch over the years. Thus, in the circle of life, it is only fitting that I'm speaking to you here today, where it all began, at the football field here at now Jerry Chabola Stadium. When Coach was first diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in 2014, he called me and told me in a very matter-of-fact tone that he hoped to beat it by doing everything in his power to do so. He always kept me posted on his condition and treatments, and he rejoiced when the prognosis was positive, and he never got down when it wasn't. He was also determined to live his life to the fullest by fulfilling a lifelong dream of one day living on the waterfront. He bought a condo in Marina Pacifica in Long Beach in 2015, and he told me that looking out at the water brought him peace. He relentlessly pursued his passion for golf, playing as often as he could. He even got me out on the course with him, knowing that I'm not a golfer, I'm a hacker. After noticing my poor play, he asked me after a few holes, "Are you having fun yet?" Despite my embarrassing play, we had a great afternoon talking about life in general and the legacy he wanted to leave behind with Culver City football. As Mike Cohen just said, I always like to joke to people that Coach Goodyear and I talked about 3 things: Culver City High School football, Centaur football, and football. The upside to that was I never had to really attend any of the games here because I always got a phone call with a play-by-play breakdown and a critique after every game. I must admit I was amazed that he never complained about his condition to me, despite all of the treatments he was undergoing. I always wondered what was going through his mind each and every day and how he maintained hope. In one of my last conversations with him before his passing, he told me he would never be able to walk again as the cancer has spread throughout his body. I let him know that I thought about him every day and that his strength and courage in the face of his adversity was an inspiration to me. And despite being dealt a bad hand, he never let it deter him, and he always ended his conversations with me by saying, "It is what it is." In fact, those were his last words to me. So I stand before you today to pay tribute to Coach Goodyear, whose passing should not be looked upon with sorrow or grief, but with compassion and peace. It was Ralph Waldo Emerson who once said, "It's not the length of life, but the depth of life that matters." That his final years were met with courage, strength, and dignity exemplified his will to live, his zest for life, and his consideration for others. Your presence here today is a moving and lasting tribute in and of itself, for I know he has touched each of you in different ways, and those memories should forever be remembered and cherished. One of my memories was when Coach gave me the best advice as I backed into a science teaching job, since at the time I was the boys varsity basketball coach at the school. He called me and told me if I don't establish discipline in the classroom from day one, then it would become impossible to teach. Therefore, he told me to educate and entertain my students to enhance their learning experience and to keep their attention in the classroom. Hence, I coined the term edutainment. That advice not only served me well in the classroom, but also on the basketball court. It made me a better teacher coach. I was having a conversation the other day, in fact it was this morning as well, with attorney Brian Dicker, and he and I marveled at the fact that we knew someone who had no living heirs, which, as everyone knows, is quite rare. And as I was thinking about this later, it dawned on me that that simply wasn't true. Coach Goodyear had more living heirs than anyone I ever knew. He had all of you. Each of you were his living heirs that he treated with loving care as any parent would. As a teacher coach, he nurtured all of you, taught you not only about football, but about life. He helped you pursue your dreams and encouraged you to continue your education by securing scholarships and grants. When I think of Coach Goodyear today, I'm reminded of one of my favorite passages from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, where a star quenched on high for ages with its light, still traveling downward from the sky, shine on our mortal sight. So when a great man dies for years beyond our ken, the light he leaves behind him lies upon the path of men. May it be said of Coach Goodyear that he rose above humble beginnings through hard work, discipline, and devotion. May it be said of him that he endured and kept the faith through dark passages and brighter days. May it be said of us that we are the recipients of his legacy, his love for his community, his kindness and generosity to Culver City High School and its football program. May it be said that he truly left a shining light for us to follow. For this we are all truly grateful. Albert Einstein, I think we all know who he is. He said, bear in mind that the wonderful things you learn in your schools are the work of many generations. All of this put in your hands as your inheritance in order that you may receive it, honor it, add to it, and one day faithfully hand it on to your children. Let us carry on this celebration of life in our hearts and keep the flame alive of Coach Goodyear's hopes and dreams. Let us dedicate ourselves to keeping his memory alive by continuing his legacy, by passing along your inheritance in this way. When you find the courage to stand up for your rights or the rights of others, tell them that you inherited that from Coach Goodyear. When you find the strength to tackle a problem that looks impossible or overwhelming, and you stick with it, tell them you inherited that from Coach Goodyear. When you get discouraged or disillusioned because of life's challenges and inequities, tell them you found the wisdom, the strength, and the courage to face your future because you inherited that from Coach Goodyear. I think it is safe to say that your inheritance will never run out if you continue to touch the lives of many with his teachings and his values. Finally, Robert Frost said in 3 words, I can sum up everything I've learned about life. It goes on. And Coach Goodyear would want us to go on. So let us remember the good times. Let us remember the laughter. Let us remember the spirit and energy in which he embraced life. Let us remember him as the role model and the man that he was. But most of all, let us remember and carry on his legacy. I thank you all tonight. God bless you all.
Running backs coach Dovie Reed has given me a who's who of speakers coming up in just a few moments. If you haven't already done so, say hello to Dovie and we'll get you up here. Share your memories, tell your stories, reminisce Greg's impact on your life and others. Thank you, Dovie. The Culver City High School Alumni Association provides support for Centaur students and staff, and it reconnects alumni and strengthens alumni ties to the school community. Welcome from the class of 1960, President, Culver City High School Alumni Association, Sandy Wolf Burton. Hi, Sandy.
Hello. Alumni Association, whose primary goal is to fund 2 annual scholarships for Culver City graduating senior students. You might want to take a look at our website, cchsa.org, and read about your fellow Centaurs. But today I am here on behalf of the Culver City High School Alumni Association to extend our heartfelt sympathy to the family of Greg Goodyear and to recognize the value of his coaching. He demonstrated to many Culver City alumni the value of utilizing and further developing the varied skills of each individual member of the team in a cooperative environment, demonstrating that a cooperative team environment can achieve so much more than individual efforts, and demonstrating that individuals with widely different skills can all contribute to a common goal. He was dedicated to the football program and worked to connect college coaches with Culver City High School players so the players could continue their football careers. Thank you, and may Coach Goodyear rest in peace.
He would volunteer to type and edit Centaur football stories dictated by Greg Goodyear, published in local media and game night programs. He often was Greg's sounding board on all things high school football. He said, Greg had a heart of gold and gave his life to the Centaur football program. Literally, it was his life. Welcome Greg's fellow Exchange Club member and sports fan, Larry Weiner.
Thank you, Mike. So, just so you know, this is not a football injury. I did it another way. But I don't know if any of you know that actually Greg was my coach. He taught me a couple of things. He taught me that I didn't know where to put a comma and that I used the wrong words a lot. And he would dictate his articles to me and I'd put them in a computer, send them back to him, and he would rip me. Because he was an English teacher for a while and he knew a lot about it. And then I would send it back to him corrected, and he would rip me again, and he wasn't going to finish until that article was perfect. And that was the level of commitment that he had. But the other thing he did is he taught me the art of the extremely long conversation. I am guessing that Greg and I spent more hours on the phone than any of the rest of you over the last 5 to 7 years. And it was an honor and a privilege because, as you've all said tonight, all the speakers, and all the rest of you know, he had the largest heart in the world. But what you don't know is that actually he gave me instructions on what to do tonight, and I haven't looked at them yet. I'm going to read them now. Well, Greg said, Larry, I trust you. I don't care what you say at my memorial. Just make sure you make it an hour and a half long. Thank you for listening.
Please welcome Culver City historian Melanie Trupp, and to be followed by Dovie Reed and then Mike Puritz. Melanie Trupp.
Hi everyone. Well, thank you, Mike. I'm not sure how I'm going to follow that one. Larry Weiner, everybody. Yeah, so, no, and it's, I was standing there for a few minutes kind of racking my brain trying to figure out what memory I wanted to talk about because almost 25 years later, there are so many, and all I keep coming back to was those 3 a.m. phone calls. Hey, can you help? I said, Coach, it's 3 a.m. I'm about to go to sleep. Can we do this in the morning? And it's like, okay. You know, there were a handful of times where I was able to pick up his call, but in the grand scheme, the most gratifying thing for me was being able to help this family, because we use a whole bunch of synonyms: the program, community, and he always reminded me, we're a family. And I see so many faces that I watch grow up right here. And like, I want to thank you for being an important part of my life, reminding me to dream bigger. Because as Coach told me, I'm grateful for all of you kids, because I keep dreaming bigger every day, and I keep reminding myself that it's important to find joy in the little things. For him, being here, to some people it may have seemed like the smallest thing in the world, but this was home. And we were his family. And I can't think of any greater honor and blessing in life to have been his friend, somebody he admitted to many times considered me a daughter, and stuck up for me. A lot of the time without being asked if I needed help, if we all needed help. Coach was there. He would travel thousands of miles to see some of his players play. Luke, right? So that's the kind of man I'm always going to remember Coach being. If he cared about you, you knew. And he didn't always have to say, I love you, but when he did, it mattered. And because he was your friend, you felt like you could take on the world. Because you had Greg Goodyear in your corner. And that made you one of the luckiest people on earth. I love you, Coach. Thank you.
Running backs coach, class of 1997, Dovie Reed, followed by Michael Puritz and Cornell Miles.
Good evening, everyone. I think we all can kind of almost say the same thing about Coach Goodyear. We all have our own stories, but the base foundation is all remain the same. He's caring, he gives what he can, and he will give everything he can as long as you need it, or want it, or ask for it. When I first started playing here at Culver City, came in, it was about 94, 95. Coach Goodyear, first time I met him, he was like, hey, how's it going? New kid, he's going to make sure he introduces himself. Once he knows and kind of realizes who you are, or maybe sees something about you, he will step in for you. He will do tremendous things. I still remember to this day, my junior year, coming over and saying, after I dislocated my shoulder, I was supposed to start a quarterback. Dislocated my shoulder, he said, hey, well, we're going to concentrate on other things. Move to strong safety, made all CIF. So a lot of things that he said, the little things make a big difference. After I finished playing, I went on to play a little for junior college, didn't make it anywhere else past that. But I can still say to this day, he would call me until I turned about 25 and said, hey, I still got some opportunities for you if you still want to come out and play. I think a lot of people do know that and will be able to do that. So to the players that have known him in the past, to the players that barely got to know him over the last few years, great person and will always be remembered for what he has done for this program and what he has done for people's lives. Thank you.
He golfed with them just a couple weeks before he died. Greg Goodyear's teammate, 1969 Story team, Michael Puritz, followed by Cornell Miles and Tom Crump. Michael Puritz. Yeah, I think I have a little bit different stories to tell. I knew Greg since junior high school, but there's quite a few, about a dozen of his teammates from the class of 68, 69 here at Culver, and then right up there. And also at Santa Monica College, class of 70 and 71 football team. There's a few teammates as well. You know, and I did golf with Greg, actually. Three of us, right after he was diagnosed, called him up and said, hey, Greg, you want to go golf? And he said, well, okay, kind of reluctantly. His dad was a great golfer. Dell was a great golfer. His mom was a great golfer. Wasn't really Greg's thing, but we got him out on the golf course, and honestly, he sucked. He wasn't very good, and he'd get frustrated, and we'd beat him, and we did a little bit of betting, and Greg would lose money all the time. Well, that didn't last very long. So those of you who know Greg, or knew Greg, he was a very determined guy. He didn't like losing to us. So we golfed maybe 6 years, once a week at least. We'd drive up to Long Beach, meet him, and we'd play. And then probably about 3 or 4 years into it, tides turned. He started kicking our butts. I didn't want to play with him anymore because he was taking all my money. But that's the type of guy and the type of personality Greg had. If he wasn't successful, he worked hard. And any of you guys, you know, are current players or former players, Greg was kind of a pain on the golf course because we'd be playing, we'd be in the middle of a backswing, he'd get a phone call. I'd say, Greg, turn your phone off. He said, but no, it's this coach from I don't know where, schools that I hadn't even heard of, but I started to learn about them. And he said, I have to talk to this coach now because if I don't talk to him now, I'll miss him. And I have a kid at Culver that I'm trying to, you know, get him to recruit. So he worked not only at home, but on the golf course relentlessly. And probably the worst thing that ever happened, one of our buddies, Gene Melcher, who couldn't be here tonight, one of our golf buddies, Greg had a flip phone for a long time. And he talked him into getting a smartphone. That was the worst thing that ever happened because Greg was always on the phone, texting, emails, everything else. But anyway, all of our teammates up there, all of his friends from back in the 60s and the 70s, we'll definitely miss him. Great guy. You guys were lucky to have him around. Thanks. Linebackers coach Cornell Miles, followed by Tom Crump and Lucas O'Connor. And here comes the spiritual leader.
Yes, I met Greg Goodyear. I came here in 1993. Got me a coach position as a linebacker coach. And he talked to me, and he took me around Culver City, took me to Inglewood, and just, because he had property over there, he was telling me a lot of things. And I've been knowing him ever since. And he became a pest sometime. And that's the truth. I mean, we go over here on defense, offense down there. Greg keeps all the stats. And he writes everything down, and then he yells stuff behind us to the referees. And the referees thinking that is us. We saying, Greg, man, get down with the offense, man. Watch the screen. I said, they don't run no screen. So then, but he'll be that way. He'll come back, oh, coach, I'm just trying to. I said, I understand, Greg, man, but you can't be coming over here. You know, messing with us. And so I had a real good time with him all these years. And when he was, that last playoff game that we had, he was there on the 30-yard line. He was sitting down in his chair. And when the game was over with, I came to him to shake his hand. He said, Coach, you guys scored too fast. You know how we had like, what, 1 minute and 50 seconds or something like that left? He was saying that we shouldn't have went so quick. And I said, hey man, I'm sorry. But Greg, like I said before when I had an interview for the Culver City News, said his blood is not red, it's blue. Because he loved Culver City football more than anybody in the world. I'm telling you. So I'm gonna miss him, but I inherited a lot from him, his hard work, his dedication, and most of all, his love for Culver City football. Whose house? Whose house? That's it. That's my story.
Assistant coach Tom Crump, followed by Lucas O'Connor and Lance Johnson. Tom.
All right, you know what? On behalf of Greg Goodyear, definitely want to thank everybody that turned out tonight. Greg would be smiling right now. You know, as all of the speakers before me attested, Greg loved his program, he loved his school, he loved the kids, and he loved his former teammates as well. So I got a chance before I retired, Greg shared stories with me about those teams, you know, and how the coaches pushed the team, how the teammates responded, and he loved you guys. He loved you guys. He never let me forget it. He would always share things with me. Coach, you could help make me a better coach. You could tell me what that team did, and if I incorporated at least some of it, we'd be better. So, but, you know, in all truthfulness, Greg loved the kids. He left no stone unturned when it came to attempting to get the kids out, get the kids scholarship offers. And one of the coaches said, and one of the former speakers said, you know, if a young man was in trouble and needed to go from one program to another, Greg would do anything he could to make sure that that player got the opportunity. You know, some of the people here in the audience could attest to that. He never wanted to see a kid without an opportunity. There's a couple times we talked where he might have asked me questions about former players, and he said, you know, he's going to try to get this kid a scholarship offer. It's like, how old is that guy? You know, but he would. I mean, that's the kind of guy he was. He'd bend over backwards to make sure that he tried to do anything he could to make sure that the kids got the opportunity. And nobody could say that they didn't get an opportunity because Greg didn't try hard enough. Nobody. So I consider Greg Goodyear my friend. I thank you guys for the opportunity for us to get here and celebrate his life. And I just thank you and bid you good night.
Quarterback, class of 2011, Lucas O'Connor, followed by Lance Johnson and Brandon Patterson.
So Coach Goodyear was not only a coach for me, he was, I mean, he was family for me. Gosh, he was the first person to show up for my mom's service. He traveled thousands of miles to come see me in Bratislava, Slovakia. We spent time in Budapest, Hungary together. And, you know, like I said, he was family. There were a lot of things that Coach taught me throughout the years. Zevi Eckhouse isn't here tonight, but he asked for me to speak for him as well. And the three things that we felt he taught us the most, number one was, as others have said tonight already as well, he was selfless. He was a giver. He cared so much about the others around him. He cared so deeply about Culver City, not just the high school, but the city. And I truly feel that, like, he lived his every single day life representing Culver City Blue. I have my shirt underneath I had to wear my Culver City shirt because he came in his coaching outfit to my mom's funeral. So I was like, this guy is, you know, he bleeds Centaur blue. Number two, he was so persistent. He was so persistent. He never gave up, and he never gave up on us as players. He fought so hard to try to get me scholarships out of high school that when I did not get the scholarship I was wanting out of high school and I went to prep school, there were coaches that I had never met before in my life who would come to the school and say, hey, where did you go to high school again? I go, Culver City. He goes, is Coach Goodyear still there? And I'd go, yeah. Man, I've had to change my number 3 different times because he won't stop calling my damn phone. And this was multiple coaches, right? So he had a reputation. However, the persistence that he had, right, it really taught me personally a ton about not only football, but life. You know, you really do have to chase after your dreams. No matter what people are telling you, you never give up on those things. And just keep chasing. And the last thing is, that dude was tough. He was one tough SOB. I think the players here and maybe his teammates that are here can attest to this, but one of the things that he would always say after games or during games is, guys, we got to play tough. We got to play tough. We got to play tough. And when I was a kid, I always used to think, that's just like such a normal thing for a coach to say. But when you watched him battle for his life the last few years and the commitment he continued to give to others, right, even though he needed so much at that time, I just think that it really, really defined who he was as a person and how truly tough that man was and what he meant when he was telling you, you got to be tough. And life throws you curveballs, and Coach Prieto's here right now, and if he ever was a guy that sat back and hit him, that was Goodyear. So, love you, Coach. Rest in heaven.
My problem was I changed my phone number only twice. Defensive backs coach, Lance Johnson, followed by Brandon Patterson and Yada Kyles. Lance Johnson.
Well, I came prepared with the speech and then realized that everybody said exactly this speech 14 times, but I'm going to do it again anyways. So, I've been fortunate to have spent the last decade. I realized that when they said you do 22 years, it's been 10 years I've been out here with you. So, and every one of those years was with Greg. So, he was and is a part of the fabric of this place. He was the most selfless man I've ever met. He cared about one thing, Culver City football. He made it his mission to get every young man a shot at college. In the age before social media and after, he was the guy calling everybody across the country, as we've heard numerous times. He was calling coaches at all hours of the day and night, and some might say harassing, and that's probably more accurate. But he was the squeaky wheel for so many people who had no clue what to do. Even when my son was playing here, we had no idea what to do. And he did it shamelessly. So there was no thought about it, oh, I'm doing this, I'm bugging these guys. He did it with a passion that was unbelievable. The last time I spoke to him, he was in a hospital bed, still contacting coaches. He put me on pause to talk to another coach. That was pretty interesting. He did all this without asking for anything in return. A player's success was his success. That's how I kind of felt about Greg. I mean, if he saw you do well, then he was doing well. So, and there are more than a few men and their families that owe a debt of gratitude to Greg. You know, everyone here can learn from a man like that. To bring your brother up, to look after your tribe, to sacrifice so others may thrive. And Jamal calls this program a family, and it is. It really is. And we lost one of our favorite uncle in December. We all have rituals on a football field. Every coach does. Me, I walk the field before every single game. Everywhere we go, we scout the field of battle. That's just the way I look at it. But inevitably, the kicker comes out earlier than everybody else. And I'll work with them a little bit. And then Greg would show up, and he'd give me a fist bump. And that was it. I was relieved. I was relieved of my duty to go do what you got to do now. And for 10 years, we did this. I don't know how we got to do it. We just did it every fall, every game. Come out, walk the field, work with the kicker, fist bump Greg, go back, talk with Jamal, let's get it on. And I tell you all this because this is going to be the first year coming up in the fall that I know there's not going to be a fist bump, right? And I don't miss Greg. I really don't miss Greg, and I don't mean it negatively. I don't miss him because he's with me, right? He's with all of us. And he changed me, he changed us, and he was a role model of selflessness, and that's been said multiple times here, and I think it's important for, especially for younger guys to know. I will forever be grateful that I was able to know such a man in my lifetime. Thank you.
Line coach Brandon Patterson, followed by Yada Kiles and Lowell Rose.
Good evening, everybody. I only have 3 minutes. I could stand up here and give you a Greg Goodyear 45-minute conversation. I have loads of stories, loads of experiences with the man, starting from my freshman year in high school all the way up till 3 months ago. I owe everything I have today to a lot of the men here that pretty much raised me. Coach Salter, Coach Wright, Coach Miles. If I haven't named you, it's because I haven't seen you. I can't see everyone out here, but Coach Goodyear was a staple in my life. He believed in me more than I believed in me, especially when I was younger. I had, victim mentality, blamed the world for my problems, and he kind of snapped me out of that. He told me that I was worth it. I am great. He also told Michigan State that I was 6'3", 290 pounds. So one day I'm working at Trader Joe's, and he calls me. I ignore it 5 times. He calls me again. I finally pick up. Coach, I'm at work. What's up? Brandon, I'm here with Michigan State, and I told them about you. They want to meet you. Michigan State wants to meet me? Really? What'd you tell them? You're 6'3", 280, so find some soles that you can put in your shoes. So I borrowed some insoles from my coworker. I grabbed a few extra sweaters, I put it on, and I went and met Michigan State at a hotel lobby somewhere. And they never called me again. I'm pretty sure they didn't call Greg either after that. But that he went to bat for me. And I owe, the shirt I'm wearing today was because of Greg Goodyear. I got to play D1 football because of him. And he cared about me so much. I didn't play much during my time there. And he wanted to fly out to Ruston, Louisiana. And I told him, Coach, don't come, man. I'm not going to play. You're wasting your time. Oh, you're going to play. You're going to play. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm telling you, I'm not going to play. Well, I'm going to come out there anyways and see you. So he flew to Ruston, and he met with me and my D-line coach, and D-line coach had a, hang up on him. He wasn't on the phone, but he said, I got to go, But that's who Greg was, man. He went to bat for everybody. Kobe, Michael Jordan, and people like that, they have an obsession, and that's what makes them great. Coach Goodyear was obsessed with getting kids out of, not just Culver City High School, wherever they ended up. I was 4 years out of high school when he got me a scholarship, 5 years out of high school when he got me my scholarship to Louisiana Tech. Went to multiple JCs and dropped out a few times, and he was always there calling me, telling me, what are you doing? And I had no idea what I was doing, and he told me what I needed to do. Went from failing all my classes with no hope, living in my mom's basement in Denver, Colorado, with 1 year left of eligibility at the JC level. He talked me back into coming back home. I lived in a closet in my friend's house underneath a staircase. I worked at Trader Joe's on weekends, and I went to El Camino College. And at the end of my stay at Elko, I was short 3 units, and I didn't have any idea how I was going to do it. Somehow, Greg figured out a way for me to get my AA in time to make the August deadline for this Louisiana Tech scholarship. It was a class I needed to take at Cloud Community College or some rant. Like, how does he know these things? Cloud Community College, there's a 6-week course I could take to get this math class, and he paid for it. I didn't have the money to pay for it. He paid for it out of his pocket. It still blows my mind to this day that that man's life's work didn't make him a dime, you know what I mean? And that didn't matter. He loved what he did, and the kids loved him for it. I love him for it. And yeah, thank you.
All CIF cornerback class of 2008, Yada Kyles, followed by Lowell Rose and Justin Cowden. Yada Kyles.
Good evening, everyone. I still remember the first time I seen Coach Goodyear in 9th grade. It was over here, before we had the tournament. He had his little shorts on, his white shirt rolled up, and he teaching the quarterbacks how to throw over the top. And I'm looking like, who is this dude? He looks like Sunshine from Remember the Titans. And little did I know that other than my mother, Coach Goodyear would be my biggest advocate in my life. I never thought we'd be that close. All the times we talked, he had more, like BP said, he had more confidence in us than we probably had in ourselves. I remember going into 12th grade, he would tell me, he was like, man, you're a prospect, you're a D1 prospect. I'm like, what are you talking about? He was like, you can play. I said, Coach, he said, I'm just staying in shape for basketball. I mean, I want to play basketball. He was like, nah, you're a DB, you're a D1 DB. So we go through my senior year, I made all CIF, and I didn't like the offers I had. So I'm like, man, I'm going to just walk on to Fresno State. My mom had put a down payment, my dad put a down payment on my dorm, and he called me, he was like, why are you walking on? He was like, you qualified, he said, you're good enough, he said, just go to JUCO. And I was like, my mom already put it down. I was like, so what, you'll get it back, and she'll thank you later. So I told my mom, she's pissed. She's crying, like, I paid my money, you need to go. A year and a half later, I got a D1 scholarship to Indiana University. I played on ESPN. I saw snow for the first time. We played in the Redskins Stadium, and we were able to walk around D.C., and I saw the White House for the first time. A kid from South Central L.A., all because of this man. He believed in me, and he gave me that motivation. And like everyone said, when he called you, you better have an hour and a half to 2 hours to talk, because he's going to talk your ear off. And when I first, every once in a while, I would always talk to him. So we'd get group texts going around, all the former players, like, hey, Coach not doing that well, call him. I'm like, I just talked to Coach. Nothing was wrong with him. So I called him, I'm like, Coach, what's up? Like, they telling me he's sick, and he was like, I'm all right. He was like, I don't know what they talking about. He was like, I'm good. I'm going to get through this. Little did I know that he's fighting the hardest battle of his life, but he always cared about us. So I'll call him and ask about him. It's like, how your son doing? How your family doing? Your mom good? And we'll just sit there and talk politics, talk everything. I mean, he's like a Renaissance man. If you ever talk to Coach, you'll see how intelligent he is. And I just thank him for everything. If it wasn't for him, it's a lot of things that I wouldn't have experienced in my life. And this past summer, about 5 or 6 of them, 6 of us got a chance to take him to lunch. And it was the worst I've ever seen him. I've never seen him that bad, and he was literally dying. And we're talking to him, and he's still the same coach. And I never thought, he just was invincible to me. I never thought that we'll be here tonight at his memorial. And he fought to the end. He'll go to Mexico, get these experimental treatments. I'll talk to him. He was like, I'm in Mexico. When I come back, we're gonna go golf, and I'm gonna tell you about how it went. He was like, my numbers are down. I'm feeling better. So I'm like, oh, Coach, good. So then I hadn't talked to him in about a year. And then went to lunch this past summer. He's in a wheelchair and he got these tubes hanging from him. And I'm like, damn, coach not looking good. But he still had his spirit. He still had that Centaur spirit. And to you young fellas, I don't know what it means to you to be a Centaur right now, but we all here because of him, because it's a brotherhood. When you put on those 2 C's on your helmet, you got to understand you're representing something. You're not representing yourself, you're representing us. You're representing all of us. We didn't have turf. This field was raggedy when we played on it. But you representing us. We put a lot of blood and sweat into this program, and it's good to see that you guys are here, but understand it's bigger than yourself. When you represent those 2 C's, you represent all of us. So we look forward to y'all having a great season this year, and I thank all of you for coming out.
Running back class of 2008, Lowell Rose, followed by Justin Cowden and Ayinde Waring.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to be quick. I just wanted to come up here and say thank you and pay my respects to Coach Goodyear because, you know, everyone that I was here with through those 4 years that played college football, he had a part in us, you know, being successful and getting to where we got, because I know when it was time for me to transfer, Coach Goodyear was on the phone from the crack of dawn until nighttime, calling different schools. Then he would call me and we'd talk for like 2 hours when I had to do homework. But if it wasn't for him, you know, I wouldn't have gotten a transfer out of my school, out of the situation I was in, to get to where I got to, and which that also helped catapult me to, you know, different endeavors in my life. So I know for me and both my parents, we want to thank Coach Goodyear. And, you know, just like Yada was saying, this whole Culver City family thing is true because, you know, I saw Coach Wright 2 weeks ago. You know, I'm seeing all these coaches. I run into someone every week, and it just means a lot that, you know, I went to school here. Every time I see someone, it's like no time has passed. It could have been 2 years since I last saw you, but it feels like I saw you yesterday. I enjoy coming up here. I played Pop Warner here. I played high school football here, and shoot, I love this school. People tell me that, you know, oh, you dwell on high school too much, like, and this is a great place. And Coach Goodyear was a big part of that. And, you know, we just got to keep remembering him. Hopefully we get that press box. And just thank you to Coach Goodyear.
From the class of 1995, Justin Cowden, followed by Ayinde Waring, and concluding with Demetria Eves.
Well, before I say anything about Greg, I just want to say I'm so proud to be a Centaur. I've been away for a while. Class of 95, me and Jamal, I got to watch him play from the sideline. And Coach used to bust my nuts all the time, Coach Miles. The one thing I will remember, it started when we were in 9th grade. They made us, the freshmen, do programs. And I remember this guy giving me this big stack of programs. Go out there and, yeah, you know, they're $1. And, you know, I'm like, okay, cool. And then I'm like, who is this guy that keeps yelling at the field? He was mad. Damrod Ricketts isn't throwing well enough or something. I don't remember the whole deal, but my mom, oh, that's Greg. I went to high school with him. You know. Okay, all right. And slowly, my relationship with him progressed. I remember Damon Williams was throwing these balls right at my hand. I was breaking my fingers. I had this mental block when it came to catching footballs. I could catch them with one hand at home, get out here, you know, and I was just having a day. I just wanted to just throw something. And he would always be here on the sideline giving his 2 bits. And he came up and they just want you, they're just yelling because they want you to improve. They don't hate you, they love you. And he was just really encouraging in his way. And then he used to hide in the locker room during the halftime. Coach, remember that? It's like, what was Coach's name? Big Coach. Patillo. Very good, you get out of here. Because he like tried to hide under the Universal machine and like write articles. He was like the little spy, and he wrote some article once in the Culver paper, and people were like, no, he ain't allowed here anymore. And then he went through his Tarzan phase where he had the long hair, and He wore those tiny OP shorts. Remember that? Yeah. Plug in that cabbage soup diet. If I had to hear about that diet, I was going to throw something, because seriously. But all of that being said, he really cared about these guys. I remember after we graduated, suddenly, I mean, he would go to bat for these kids. My sister's former boyfriend was pretty much going to call it quits, and he kept pushing him. He'd call him up every couple of weeks. Are you staying in shape? Are you staying in shape? Kid ended up going and playing for the Raiders. That's because of Greg Goodyear. Like, he literally, because he was on a team that was like 1-9, and Greg still pushed and got him out there. And I just remember I gave up trying to even have a cell phone before 2005, so I had that pager, and there would always be like 46 messages from the same number, and guess who it was? Justin, Greg Goodyear here. And he'd always call you up. He always wanted to include me. And I think Coach Salter, when I first met you, Jamal, you guys we were doing sophomore running backs. And he got me to come in and be with him and Coach Bennett, and I was like, all right, this will be fun, because Red Wine was still there, and I was like, this will be great. And I'm probably 23 or 24, and he teaches me how to throw a football. I throw a football many times, but like, he was literally, I think he just wanted to show off. You want to roll out and do this, and he would do the thing and do the quick release, and like, over the top, man. Wow. Because I'm not exactly a tall guy here, so pull it away. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's pretty funny. But just seeing it, I think once he got to be part of the coaching staff, that was the year, that was the first year. It was something different. It was like that thing inside him that he was just fighting to be. My mom said, he just wants to be a coach. And he ended up being one of the best coaches, because he didn't just teach fundamentally sound Division I quarterbacks, as he would say. It was good men, and we were his family. The United Blue Brotherhood, that's what we are. And I'm so proud to be a part of it. Once a Centaur, always a Centaur. Proud of you guys, love you guys. Thank you.
Justin will be performing at the Pechanga Casino tomorrow night. His son was a top sprinter at Culver City High School. Allende Waring, followed by Demetria Eves.
Good afternoon, everybody. My wife is keeping track of my time because I am a little long-winded, so I'm not going to preach. I'm a little bit different than everybody in the sense that I was Culver City, then I left, and I came back. I actually started coaching. Me and Jerry Chabola's, his grandson and my son played football right over there in those fields and back on this field where it used to be grass and raggedy like everybody talked about before it was all this. And so I was here a long time. And then I left, and we came back in 2019. And when we came back, we'd been in South Carolina. I'd been here a couple of days, came to practice, and sure enough, I met Goodyear. And instantly, the first thing he said to me, he saw Legend, he was like, I need your phone number. And everybody knows where that's going. Me and Goodyear spent a good 3 to 4 hours a day for a good week and a half getting to know each other. And what happened was, the conversation started out about my son, where he wanted to go to school. I said, well, Goodyear, I'll tell you this. I don't know exactly. He's open, but he wants to stay in California. He said, okay, I got it. Called me up a week later. He said, well, I got this school in Texas is interested in your son. I said, no, Goodyear, he wants to stay in California. He told me he wants to be in California. He said, all right, I got you. What you think about Florida? So we did that for quite some time, but one of the things I quickly realized was just how much he cared about the kids and how much he cared about my son. He had just met him. Legend story is legend story. He's at Cal Poly now, and we're grateful for that. But Goodyear was right there. He wanted to help out. And I'm a firm believer in this thing that everybody comes into your life for, and you've heard it before, for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And that's the thing about Goodyear is it went beyond that. It went beyond just a brief moment. in that little bit of time that we've gotten to know each other over the course of these last 2 years, we developed a real friendship. Now, of course, he would still do some things sometimes that kind of trip me out because y'all see what I'm wearing right now. My shirt says Morehouse College. He calls me up one day, we're talking football. There was a kid at Culver, and he had just gotten offered by Morehouse. And I was like, he said, man, this kid just got offered by Morehouse College. And before I could get the words out of my mouth, he was like, that's an awful school, why would he go there? And I said, well, Goodyear. I let him say his thing, but I was like, but brother, I went to Morehouse College. And he said, okay, but why would he go there? It didn't matter. And it didn't bother me though, because honestly, we had like this genuine sort of thing. And it's hard to explain. It was like a real true friendship. And I'll tell you, he talked to me about a lot of things. He talked to me about the press box. He talked to me about what he wanted to do with the weight room. He talked about some statues and some other things that he wanted to leave behind for Culver City. But we were having these conversations, and he started, when I first saw him, like everybody talked about, he was really tough guy. And he had told me, in one of our first conversations that he had stage 5 cancer, and he was supposed to have died by now. And I was like, man, you're going to be okay. I'm going to pray for you. But near the end, one of the things that is the most meaningful to me is a Sunday, my wife and I were doing something. We had a bunch of stuff to do, and I got a call from Goodyear. He said, I need your help. I said, I'll be right there. He'd never called me to ask me for my help before, but I knew that he needed it. And he felt good enough to call, he felt comfortable enough to call me. And I knew that we had moved beyond that season, and this was a friendship that lasted a lifetime. And we ended up taking him, we ended up going to the hospital. He was there in the hospital, and man, he was tripping the doctors out. They were trying to do stuff to him. He was like, I know what they're about to do. They're about to tell me this, and they're about to tell me that. And I was like, yeah, just chill out, Goodyear. Just let them do their thing. But nevertheless, he went through that, and that was probably one of the last times I saw him. And that was about a week and a half before he passed away. But Goodyear was a special man. The Waring family is so grateful to him, so thankful for him, so thankful for his effort. And as many of you have already said, he was a truly special man, and we love him, and we appreciate him. Thank you all.
Centaur parent mom, Demetria Eves.
I'm going to make it quick. I'm going to cut out all the stuff you've already heard a couple dozen times. I just want to say that, first of all, I'm class of '89, Culver City Centaurs, woo woo. I am the parent of 2 Centaurs, one class of 2020 and the other class of 2023. And we met Coach Goodyear because my older son grew up a baseball player. So everybody in Culver City knows him as a baseball player. At 14, he had an injury to his arm and couldn't play baseball for a year. And it was the first time he hadn't played baseball since he was 6. So I go, okay, you know what? I asked the doctor, I said, can he play football? He said, oh yeah, as long as he's not quarterback because he can't use his arm. So I said, okay, you're going to play football when you become a freshman. He had no experience as a football player on a team at all. He was just a baseball player. And somehow he got grooved in. He caught the eye of Coach Goodyear. Coach Goodyear took him under his wing. But when you're kind of getting used to football and there's a learning curve there, we didn't really know what to do. We didn't know how to get him recruited. We knew there was a lot of recruitment going on from this team. And we wanted him to get into it. We had no clue how to do it. So Tanner worked really hard and became a really good football player. And next thing you know, we're in Goodyear's fold. And he's blowing my phone up. And you know how that is. And so I'm just like, there were times where I'd look at it, I was like, I'm going to let that go to voicemail. And I started doing that less and less over time because I knew one day I wouldn't be getting those calls anymore. And here we are. But long story short, he left me with a roadmap to get my youngest son recruited
He's still a junior now. He's got one more season yet. So that roadmap to get him into a D1 school, we're going to follow that. But with my oldest son, remember, we had no clue what to do. I didn't know how to get him recruited. His junior year came around, his senior year came around. We weren't getting anything, really. But Coach Goodyear was making those phone calls, and my son's senior year ended. We still didn't have any real official offers. And then suddenly there was a Hail Mary into the end zone. And right now I'm very proud to say that my son, Tanner, is a sophomore at the University of Pennsylvania playing football, Ivy League. And that's all Coach Goodyear. That's all Coach Goodyear. Thank you very much, everyone.
We conclude with Culver City High School head coach Jamal Wright and athletic director Tom Salter.
We'd like to thank everyone for coming. This is a great turnout, and we'd like to sit and talk with everyone. So, thank you for coming.
I said, thank you for coming.